Hello and welcome. I am DEJI360. Now, the proposed national conference by the federal government is gradually taking shape. The nomination of delegates is expectedly going on across the country as we speak. This has, of course, been done by the various groups and stakeholders that have been identified to attend the conference. Now, long before now, some people have advocated that the conference should be allowed to discuss anything, including the possibility of breaking up the country. But the federal government has now come out to say that would not be a subject of discussion during the conference. Listen to how Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Pius Anyim, put it when he unfolded details of the conference recently.
The national conference shall hold in the Federal Capital Territory. C. The national conference shall tentatively last for 3 months and shall discuss any subject matter whatsoever except the indivisibility and indissolubility of Nigeria as a nation. This is to say that the unity of Nigeria is not negotiable. D. A conference management secretariat shall be established to manage, administer, and run the affairs of the conference. E. Decisions at the national conference shall be by consensus, but where it is not achievable, it shall be by 75% majority. F. The national conference shall advise the government on the legal framework, legal procedures, and options for integrating the decisions and outcomes of the national conference into the constitution and laws of the country. And finally, the national conference shall have a chairperson and a deputy chairperson. Both shall be of unimpeachable integrity.
Now, the issue of who should attend the conference has always been a sticking point. The government has pegged the number of delegates to 492. The president would appoint some. The state government would also appoint some. Political parties will have their share, as well as various groups and ethnic nationalities. Now, take a listen to how the government, that Secretary to the Government of the Federation, now put it.
1. Elder statesmen. 1 per state and FCT, that is 37 in number, to be nominated by Mr. President. 2. Retired military and security personnel. Military, 1 retired military personnel from each geopolitical zone, that is about 6 of them, to be nominated by the stakeholders. The same as police, 1 per geopolitical zone, 6 of them. The same as state security and NIA put together, that is 6 of them. These are to be nominated by the stakeholders. 3. Traditional rulers, 2 per geopolitical zone and 1 for FCT, that is 13 in number, to be nominated by the stakeholders. Retired civil servants, 1 per geopolitical zone, that is 6 in number, to be nominated by stakeholders. 5. Labor representatives. NLC shall nominate 12 delegates. TUC shall nominate 12 delegates. And I encourage that nominations should reflect geopolitical and gender balance. Organized private sector. NECA, 2 delegates. MAN, 2 delegates. NASIMA, 2 delegates. NESG, 2 delegates. Nominations shall be by the stakeholders. 7. Nigerian youth organizations. 1. National Youth Council of Nigeria. 6 delegates to be nominated, 1 per political zone, by the stakeholders. National Association of Nigerian Students. 1 per geopolitical zones to be nominated by the stakeholders. Other outstanding youths and role models, 1 per geopolitical zone, to be nominated by federal government.
Well, joining me now to expand on some of the issues identified by now identified by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, there is Mr. Wahab Shitu, who is a lawyer and a political affairs analyst. Mr. Shitu, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you for inviting me.
First, let us start with this issue of no-go area. Of course, before now, a lot of people have said there should be no-go areas, and now the federal government has made it clear the unity of this country will not be a subject of discussion at all.
Okay, when you talk of the unity of this country not being a subject of discussion, I think you are already limiting the space for discussion. And if you are talking of unity and peaceful coexistence, then you don't assume that.
No, probably what the government is actually trying to say is, fine, you can discuss how we can better live together, but the idea of a breakup of the country should not come up at all.
I think that, again, is not something that is desirable, if indeed we want to have frank discussions. At the end of the day, Nigerians might decide we want to live together. Nigerians could decide ultimately that, oh, we want to stay together, and that the unity of this country is not negotiable. That should be a decision to be taken as the outcome of the conference, not a decree to be made by the government before the conference takes off. Because what we are saying now is that we are trying to look at the best form of political arrangement, the best form of constitutional arrangement, the desirability of Nigeria as an entity, and what are the sources, the root causes of grievances. Is it because people don't feel comfortable with the present arrangement politically? Or is it because what is wrong is our constitutional structure? All of these issues must be discussed, and then the outcome determined by the people.
We're definitely going to go to the outcome, but let's look at the nominations. I mean, the number now, 492. You think that is representative enough? And then the federal government clearly, stated who would attend that conference, who should attend.
Again, that is also a minus. If you are talking of a conference of the Nigerian people, then every stakeholder must be represented, and the stakeholders must be given ample opportunity of electing or appointing the representatives, and then they must agree on what to say. So if you say, oh, you are limiting those to attend the conference to particular stakeholders, then you are not really prepared to have.
But in actual sense, you wouldn't expect that everybody should attend.
No, nobody is saying that everybody should attend, but you should widen the space.
Is 492 not huge enough? Even though the president will be appointing, some would say quite a significant number, about 40-something.
Yes, it may be huge on the face of it. But what we are saying is that are all the stakeholders that are involved in the Nigerian Federation, expected to attend? No, this if you look at the list, really about it.
Yes, of course.
It doesn't cover some stakeholders who have a voice.
Like what? Tell me some of the stakeholders that you would want to see there that won't be represented.
The farmer.
Well, they have the organized private sector. Okay, man and others. Okay, just
the farmer, the vulcanizer. It's not. They are not represented. The handicap. The physically challenged people.
I would think they're there.
Where? So you see, what we are saying is that a nation is constituted by several interest groups. And these interest groups, their opinions matter. Ought to be reflected in a national dialogue of this nature. And they both agree. It's not the government to choose who to be there, who not to be there. Because that would derogate essentially from the sovereignty of the conference. And that's what we're saying. We must discuss. You see, why do we need this conference?
But we must get one thing clear. This is not a sovereign national conference, the kind that groups, some civil society groups have always called for. This is not that, because the government has made it quite clear, and I would think that is quite understandable to everyone.
No, that precisely is the point that I'm making. It ought to be a sovereign national conference. It should not be a conference subject to the whims and caprices of the government. It should be a sovereign national conference, because already we have a floor arrangement in place. And that's the issue. Now, why do we need this conference? In my view, we need this conference in order to be able to determine and discuss the national question. Some people have alluded to the fact that we need to answer those two questions. Whether we want to live together as a people under the present arrangement.
And of course, that is not a subject for discussion.
And that question is very fundamental. When you raise that question, it does not mean that you are calling for the dissolution of the country. When a husband and a wife want to make it up after protracted quarrels, now want to sit down together and say, oh, do we need this union? Can we stay together? It does not mean that...
Or should we just go our separate ways?
Yes, in order to promote peace, in order to enhance unity. Or if you don't force them to stay together, then you must be prepared to live with the consequences. And ultimately, such a dialogue might even resolve, they might say, let's discuss our differences. At the end of the differences, they might say, okay, let's give it a second chance. So you shouldn't assume that the mere fact that you are discussing the indivisibility or the dissolution of the country means you want to tear the country apart. All we are saying is that Nigeria came together as a result of accident of history, way back from 1914, the amalgamation of the Northern and Southern Protectorate. It was an arrangement that was forced on the people by some kind of decree.
But tell me, in fact, is it possible for this conference, sitting for about 3 months, to be able to resolve all the problems confronting this country?
That is precisely the point. That's why some people have said, is this a genuine conference? Given the fact that opinions are divided. There are those who are already saying, they don't believe in the conference. And that the timing is wrong.
But do you believe in the conference? You as an individual?
I believe sincerely in the conference. I believe that we need to stock. And the reason for this is clear. There's a lot of crisis going on in the Nigerian nation. In the north, you have the Boko Haram insurgency, burning of mosques, burning of churches, and all that. Crisis everywhere. In the south, you have increasing wave of militancy.
So we should expect, for instance...
Now, in the southeast, there's a rising wave of kidnapping. In the southwest, you see widespread incidents of armed robbery. So crisis everywhere.
And we do not know for sure that Boko Haram will be represented at this conference. We do not know for sure that these ex-militants will be represented.
And so the issue of security is very central. How do you address it?
So you're saying the federal government should have extended an invitation to Boko Haram?
They should have extended invitation to all those...
Well, some would say they are part of an ethnic nationality. So
all those who have a stake in the Nigerian Federation. Because we need to discuss. If you ask me, Nigeria currently lives a lie. Nigeria currently is founded on deception. We deceive ourselves. The constitutional arrangement that we have in place is a product of deception.
Now, because you talked about constitution, we're going to come to that, but let's just take a short break now. When we come back, what exactly does the federal government want from this conference, and what does civil society unions and all those who are supporting this initiative, what do they want? It would appear they want completely two different outcomes. Stay with us and find out after the break. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ, if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions. Welcome back. Now, it would appear that what the federal government wants out of this exercise is slightly different from what some of the groups who are supporting it wants, actually. Mr. Shitu, you look at what the federal government wants. The federal government has basically been saying this is more like a constitution amendment process. But then what we're hearing from the other side, from civil society groups, from ethnic nationalities and what have you, what we're hearing from them is that they want a brand new constitution out of this. But just before then, I want you to take a listen to what the president of the country said not quite long ago about the outcome of this conference. Take a listen to him, and when we come back, I want to get your reaction. Let's take a listen to the president now, speaking on what should happen to the outcome of this conference.
Some people are still instigating others that, oh, president is doing this, the government doesn't have the capacity to do that. We are totally committed to do what is right. And this national dialogue is even critical, and is even coming at the right time, because the National Assembly is thinking about how they will amend Constitution. So the results of the discussions, of course, will be passed on to the National Assembly. It's only the duty of all of us who are Nigerians. So impress on our representatives, people who are representing us, our senators, our House of Rep members, and our House of Assembly members, because it's a constitutional amendment. So all the state parliaments and the federal parliament must work together to make sure that these are properly enshrined in our constitution, so that as a nation we hand over a country that is better than what we have made to our.
Well, there you heard the president saying basically it's like this is more like a constitutional amendment process. The outcome of the conference handed over to the National Assembly, and it would be incorporated into the ongoing constitution amendment process being by the National Assembly. So but civil society groups and other groups, including yourself, have been saying what you want out of this process is a brand new constitution.
I think the question we must ask ourselves is what is it in the national interest? Not what is it in the interest of the government, or in the interest of the civil society, or in the interest of Mr. Shitu.
Even though the government would say it represents the national interest and represents the people.
What is important is what in the final analysis will be in the national interest. The president is right in saying that part of the resolution of the conference will be to address the constitutional structure of the country. But that's only one subject area. The conference will also discuss issues bordering on national questions.
No, but we've also had groups, for instance, come out to say, look, what they want is that they want immediate, as soon as the conference is concluded, that the outcome, that there should be a referendum. The president, of course, is not envisaging any kind of referendum. Even the secretary to the government of the Federation has made it clear that he doesn't see that happening. But groups are saying there should be a referendum where the people of Nigeria would vote on the outcome, and that it should just be handed over to the National Assembly to promulgate without changing anything.
If the conference goes ahead without its outcome being referred to the referendum, it's a bloody waste of time. Because ultimately, you are saying that you are trying to sustain the people. A referendum means that the people will have a say in deciding the outcome of the conference.
Who decides whether there should be a referendum?
The people.
No, who decides? Should it be the conference or the National Assembly?
I mean, that is why precisely we need an act of parliament.
And we don't have that act of parliament. So,
a legal framework. Because
basically there's no legal framework.
Yes, to kickstart the conference. The way it is now.
And that legal framework is not in place. Do you expect that to come in place before March? Because this conference is just...
That is precisely the point. You ask yourself, what is the difference between this conference and the one organized by former President Obasanjo?
What kind of, as a lawyer, what kind of legal framework would you
The legal framework that I envisage is one that will set out all the, the conditionalities. One, who is the convening authority? What is the agenda to be discussed? How are the delegates to the conference to be nominated?
Well, but I mean, how the delegates are to be nominated has been announced by the federal government. As a matter of fact, the nomination is going on.
This is not embodied in a document, in any legal framework. How do we deal with the outcomes?
So are you saying mistakes are already being made now?
Before we embark on the conference, there must be a legal framework in place to set out all the details, the parameters.
Because the nomination process is expected to be concluded on the 20th of February, which is just...
so all what we have now is the outcome of policy statements. There's no force of law. Because the present
and anyone could go to court to challenge this.
Because the present constitution does not envisage the convocation of a national conference. And what we are saying is that if we say you are going to bring the outcome of the discussion to the National Assembly, even the National Assembly itself will be a subject matter of the discussion. We might decide at the end of the day that we do not want the National Assembly.
This is complex.
As far as presently constituted. You understand what I'm saying? Because we are going to be discussing in that conference even the political structure of the country. There are those who believe that the existing presidential system of government is too expensive. That the cost of governance is astronomically high. There are those who believe that we do not need a bicameral kind of legislature, Senate and the House of Representatives, because the cost. So there are those who contend that perhaps we need to go back to the parliamentary system of government. Others will argue that the unity system of government is best suited for Nigeria.
No, but
the political structure, the appropriate political structure that can engender lasting peace and stability will also be a subject matter of this conference.
And the funniest thing is, if this legal framework has to come to being, it has to be made by the National Assembly.
Yes! There must be an act of parliament that will set the ground rules. How the discussion will proceed.
And you think these lawmakers would set a ground rule that would require the...
That is why this conference cannot take place meaningfully, except all stakeholders agree on the need for the conference. As it is now, you can see a lot of, a lot of setbacks already.
Let me just ask you a final question, because we have to wrap up. Do you believe in the genuineness of this conference?
I believe,
especially when you consider the timing of it, considering the fact that elections will be coming up not quite long after now.
I've always been an advocate of a conference in order to discuss all the contending issues facing Nigeria. But I just believe that they need to put tie up all the loose ends. But the timing now,
it appears we
I have my fears. Because INEC has just ruled out the timetable for the election.
February.
Don't you think that people will be more focused, particularly the politicians?
You're absolutely correct.
Will be more focused on the 2015 elections rather than the national conference. So are we really getting it right? I have a lot of fears, especially in the absence of an effective legal framework to drive the process, especially given pronouncements by key government officials that there are some no-go areas, especially given the fact that they say, the outcome will have to come to the National Assembly. I believe a national conference that will be useful and effective for Nigeria must be driven by the people, and the outcomes must be, tabled before the people in the referendum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wahab Shitu, for joining us on the program.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you very much for your thoughts. Well, that's it on the program. If you want to watch it again, it's so simple. All you just need to do is go to our website, tv360nigeria.com. You'll find the program and lots more. You can also watch us on YouTube by subscribing to our YouTube channel. It's actually youtube.com/TV360Nigeria. Follow us on Google Plus at TV360Nigeria. And you could like us on Facebook. The address is facebook.com/TV360 online. You can also follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @TV360 online. We thank you very much for watching. I am DEJI360. Hopefully I'll see you next week.